I knew something already that I hadn't told anyone on the course. Complete blibbly blobbly, what the hell's that all about? I was struggling with like, where the hell am I going? Who am I about? But in amongst that whole carnage of mess and confusion and stuff like that, this fruit bowl appears. The nakedness of who you are and why is so important, because so the start of the RCA was kind of interesting, because there was this sort of presentation about, don't be scared about the process we're going to go through. We're going to strip you of what you perceive design to be back to your core, and then we're going to help you learn who you are. And I was like, what, complete blibbly blobbly, what the hell's that all about? So I kind of started to think about that and what that meant. And bloody hell, within 4 months, I knew what it meant. I'd left St. Martin's thinking I was kind of cool. I'd been on the Big Brother, we'd done the floating TV and the inflatable portfolio, and I was thinking, this is, I know my shit. Within 3 months, I was like, I didn't know design anymore. I remember standing up in a presentation, almost unable to speak, because what we started to do, and it's really hard to explain, but you start to question why all the time. Why did I do this? Why did you do this? What is it? Answering truthfully why and understanding truthfully why is how you get to the core of who you are. And as a designer, when someone says, why did you design that leg that way? You have to think about truthfully why you did it. As painful and as brutal as it is, just answer why. Don't cover it up. Don't veneer it. Don't do all the stuff. Just understand why. Question why, and really get into that. And these first few months at the Royal College, it was this question of why, of why, of why. And the more you're asked it, the more you're petrified. And in the end, you're frozen, because you're so scared to do anything unless you understand why you're doing it. And that becomes the point. You have to go through this petrified process to really understand why you do something. And the challenge is that why, learning that why, is a two-way process. It's a step forward and a couple of steps back. Post-rationalising whilst hypothesising. You've got to think about why you're doing something, where you think it might go, do it, and understand whether it worked or why it didn't work, and start to create that kind of mesh of information. They were very clear in saying you will never lose who you are. So don't be scared to let go. Those ideas, thoughts, and observations will always be with you. This is a journey about peeling you back. Who are you? Why do you exist? What's your purpose? It was a really hard process, because I like graphics, I like overlays, I like blobby stuff and bright stuff and energy and everything else. And these things cover shit. So all of a sudden I've been told, no, take that shit away, get rid of all of that shit. And it was really hard for me to go through that. But gradually I was getting through it. But I can tell you with truth, that first year at the Royal College was really difficult. And actually, I don't think I ever fully recovered during my whole time at the Royal College with that problem, this stripping back process. But a really key thing happened. We did a talk at some point into it, I can't remember exactly when, I think it was at the AA, at the Architectural Association. And I heard for the first time this notion that stuck with me ever since, which was about how we encourage an opportunity of chance. I responded to it, first of all, by going, what the fuck's an opportunity of chance? It's like, an opportunity of chance? Nothing? Where the hell does that go? But this opportunity of chance thing was really interesting. But it came at a time when my head was absolutely mush. So it sort of sat there. Luckily with the Royal College is if you get through the first year, you can really pass the course just by breathing. Because they're pulling you apart in the first year, there are no data points to fail from, because they're just ripping you apart. How can anyone fail at being shit? Knowing full well that you're going to pass, the second year, actually becomes incredibly focused on your final degree show. And where St. Martin's was a fairly big degree show, the Royal College degree show is a really big degree show. And a lot of people see that show as their calling card for getting a job. And this is where I knew something already that I hadn't told anyone on the course, that I didn't want a job. So for me, it wasn't a calling card. It was like, I was trying to think, what the hell am I going to do? And I started to create sort of a kind of film version of what design could be. And I wanted to design a pop-up toaster and a storage system or something. In parallel, I was becoming more fascinated with inflatables. But at college, I was working entirely on the kind of product design and no inflatables. But in my private time, I had started to experiment a little bit with the inflatables. And I don't know why it was. I didn't take the inflatable work into college. I kind of kept them separate. And I don't know why. I still don't know why to this day. But what happened was this pop-up toaster I was designing, it basically, I have it here, a picture of it, the actual one. I was making this toaster, it looked a bit like a drum. And you put the toast in and you push the whole thing down, and slowly as the toaster toasted, at the end it popped up and the whole thing popped up. And while I was making that, I was making these, because it moved, I had to make these sort of, this edge to the toaster that was a bit like a Calatrava structure. It sort of went down and went out and up and down. And so I had to make these fins that sort of went up and down. And while I was making it, I accidentally had my own little welding machine by then, and I accidentally welded 3 of them together in the wrong way. And then when I welded them together, I realized that they made what looked like a fruit bowl the other way up. You know, I was sort of like, oh, this is great. So all these sketches I've been doing, none of the sketches had worked as the products, but this accident had. And this is where, for me, where this opportunity of chance started to make sense. The opportunity of chance is just having your eyes open. It's not really that complicated. It's just going through life, having your eyes open. And if you're lucky, your head is filled with problems and your eyes are open. And, you know, the answers are all existing around us. It's just that opportunity of chance to connect them. And this is where the penny bloody dropped. This fruit bowl, this was the incarnation of it. And from then on, I realized that I had to shift who I was to becoming somebody that was experimenting whilst having my eyes open and also understanding patterns and problems so that you can start to piece things together. And so I could see now that the Inflate idea that I was kind of conceiving in my head, this idea of creating products as inflatables, like the portfolio as a product, an inflatable as a product. I could see now that you needed to really give this value and purpose. You needed to kind of encourage this opportunity of chance to develop it. It needed to come out. You couldn't just draw it. It's too preconceived. It's got to reveal itself. So we got this sort of deconstruction going on. So I'm still deconstructed and fucked in the head. Like you can see here, like, you know, this is like a kitchen cabinet I made, which is like a jigsaw puzzle. And then my graphic passion, this guy called Phil had done the graphics for the front. So again, I've still got all this graphics going on. And I'm sort of designing this product, this crazy cupboard, jigsaw doored cupboard for the RCA. And I had this pop-up toaster going on, and I had a crazy table with a big button in the middle of it. But actually none of it made sense. It was all mental, totally mental crap, mental shit. But I was struggling with, like, where the hell am I going? Who am I about? But in amongst that whole carnage of mess and confusion and stuff like that, this fruit bowl appears. And so when I did my degree show, I did all my little objects and I made my toaster. So again, the perseverance. I made the bloody toaster. I made it work. It did work. I made the cupboard, it did work. I did the table, did all these crazy shit things that were done, and I built them as beautifully as I could, and they looked good. And we did everything. It was mental. And then I just put a fruit bowl there. They didn't even look at any of my RCA work. They just looked at the fruit bowl, and he could see that that fruit bowl I'd discovered by chance had connected things together. And that was the beginning of understanding how we were going to design going forwards. And when I talk now, this how you work to encourage opportunities of chance is really core to everything that I've ever been about since. But if that moment of welding that fruit bowl, the pop-up toaster wrong, hadn't have happened, and that had to become a fruit bowl, and I decided it was a fruit bowl, because it didn't have to be a fruit bowl, I just decided, oh, it's a fruit bowl, these moments wouldn't exist. And then the other bit, the deconstructed bit, the nakedness of who you are and why, is so important, because when you know why you do something, you can sell it. And that was the nub of it, because as a designer, you're surrounded, as your business grows, you're surrounded by more and more business people and more commercial people, because you're doing bigger projects, more value, etc. You can see why you do stuff, they can't. And understanding why you do it truly, and being able to tell the truth of why you did it, really the truth, and really understand that, is a really potent tool in navigating the challenges of how you hold on to creativity and the purpose of it alongside the constraints of industry. And the work we did at the RCA in that deconstruction of yourself to rebuild is so valuable in how you go forwards. And without doing it, you're just a soapy mess. And basically you don't have any value. It's very hard. You've got to pull yourself apart, rebuild yourself. And it's a constant process. It doesn't rebuild yourself once and live with it forever. You've got to challenge yourself all the time, who you are, why you're doing it. And as the world changes, you're pivoting and changing as well. And you've got to keep sense checking yourself. So this was an amazingly lucky moment. And before I went to the RCA, I was like, what is this going to be for? What am I going to do? Well, I found myself, weirdly. And I found opportunity of chance. I found how not to be scared of trusting in your instinct and your vision, but also being really excited about truthfully understanding who you are. And that was a really, the rounding and a perfect leap into the real world, which by this point, I was so excited to at last leave college, having done 5 straight years of education, 6 because of foundation and the rest. I was in 1995 absolutely desperate to be an industrial designer. Okay.